I'm beginning to think that I apologise too often for for dumping on King John Sirasani, but I don't single him out on his own. I think that all of these professional losers are con men, because they're pretending to be real life gamblers, like Vegas Matt, for instance, whose slogan is "My gambling is as real as it gets," and it's absolute bullshit. The guy is bulletproof. All these guys are bulletproof because they can lose a bunch of money and pretend that it's a huge drama, but in the end, they're going to get their money back one way or the other, which does not apply to you and me. And so that's why from time to time I do get a little testy about these blokes. I mean, there aren't very many women in this game, are there? And the women that are not playing table games. They're sticking with slot machines, and of course, slot gambling is about as dumb as anything could possibly be. It's just nuts. Kind of interesting actually to see these slot players when they wander over to a table game, as Vegas Matt often does, and they play it in pretty much the same way. I mean, no plan, no commitment to anything at all. And all of these people do the same thing, and that is that they bet in amounts which have nothing to do with the target. So they're not thinking about prior losses. They just walk up to the table, start as if it's a brand new session in a brand new situation, and behind them they've got tens, hundreds of thousands of losses, which they make no attempt to recover. Now, there are people out there who'll say, well, if you try to get your losses back, you're just throwing good money after bad. It's just not true. The point is that if you tackle these games with a plan and with a bankroll that can take you through the hard times and get you out the other side, in other words, you've got to combine those two things, then you've got a chance of beating these tilted table games. If you don't have a plan, if you play like John Sirasani, well, just assume that you're going to lose your money. Okay, so you don't have to look too closely at this shit show to see that this latest session at Circa for the greatest blackjack player who ever walked the earth was a very nasty experience. He faced overall a house edge of about 16% against him, which is tough for somebody who bets the way that King John does. He basically he bets flat and randomly, and I'm afraid that just doesn't cut it. And it doesn't work as well as it should when you hit a plus streak, and it works a lot worse than it should when you hit the kind of crap that he hit this time. And what I'd like to draw your attention to is, I mean, here is the actual value. This is, how it would be if he was betting just one unit each time. And this is where the 16% house edge comes in. It's not very nice. But if you look at his action, I mean, if you can't see the very close similarity between this track and this track, then I don't know what to say other than maybe polish your glasses or whatever. I don't get any pleasure out of seeing anybody lose, but at the same time, I don't feel much sympathy for these professional losers on YouTube because they get a shitload of money back from Google. They enjoy privileges that you and I do not. And the most important privilege being that their losses are discounted, that they're going to get them back either through promotional chips from the casinos, although they certainly wouldn't get the amount that John lost this session back from Circa. But like I say, I hate to see anybody lose, but I don't really cry too many tears for somebody like John. he and I are going to have to disagree politely about his losses in this session. I've got him down just over 29,000. He said something about how he was, I don't know, what was it? 20, I don't know. Somewhere around 15,000 he seemed to think he was down. Um, but I'm very, very careful about making sure that I get all his bets accurately transcribed, including, of course, the silly bets, the ones that I absolutely advise against. But of course, as will often happen when you take a firm stand against anything, there's going to be the exception that proves the rule, and that indeed is what happened this time. We go down to the bottom. What we see is that he actually won nearly $6,000 on his silly bets, as I call them. He had two more wins than losses. That's that number there. 5,750 is his total win. His total action was 255,000, and he managed to lose 29,250. So that's a loss of 11.5%, minus 11.5% of his total action. What else do we need to look at here? His average win was 1,600. His average loss was, oh, look at that, pretty much 1,600. 1,578. So I think we can say that his average win and his average loss were about identical. And that's the way it is for random bettors, random punters. And this is a guy who talks all the time about money management. He says, the secret to their winning at this game is money management. Bloody hell, he threw money management completely under the bus in this session. I know he was under pressure. One of the things that I don't understand about these people is that they just keep bending over. I mean, he was in trouble. Let's see, the first 21 bets, and it's only 21 bets because it happens to be that my notebook has 21 lines. But in the first 21, he was 10% down. The next 21, 12.5% down, and that's just the second 21. So he was maintaining a disadvantage. And then in the next 21 bets, another 30% down. He didn't have a single stretch of 21 bets where he came out with more losses. More wins than losses. I mean, it was a bloody horror story. Look at this, another -2 here, and then when we get down to the bottom, another -3 there. It was just hell on wheels, and overall -24. So 24 more losses than wins, except of course over here he picked up 2. So he got. It's just. I'm kind of speechless about this whole thing, but I have to say I owe him thanks, because once again he proved that pattern betting is the way to go. His total action, I've got that wrong here. His total action was let me see. I'm definitely doing something wrong here. 254,750. So that's Q4561. Forgive me when I slip up like this, but it happens. Plus Q4561. All right. So his final result was an 11.5%. There you go. That's correct. Action for me, for dear old what's his face, Algie, the pattern betting algorithm was, and let's go up and find out, 100,000 less than John. And this is why it always kind of rankles with me a bit when people sort of say, well, your bets are too big. It's just too much money at stake there. It's just ridiculous. Nobody could do that. But you're watching them all the time, you people out there. You're watching these professional losers on YouTube pissing huge amounts of money up the wall. And here, as I say, I mean, John's at total action was 255,000. Mine was 148,000. And I managed to, or sorry, I keep forgetting to give credit where it's due. The algorithm won 5,800, which is a pretty piddly hold, but it's a bloody sight better than minus 16%. The minus 16% applies here accurately and totally, because in the algorithm tab here, I only bet the first base bets, the left hand bets. So if there's only one, then obviously if there's only one bet on the table, then that's the one that goes into the data set here. And if there are two, then it's always the left hand one. So that's that's what happens. The indicated result at minus 16% would be 23,600 lost. Instead, we won 5,800. Not much else I can say to you, really. I mean, the total, the worst spot was down here. We went 17,500 in the hole. We had a couple of places where I would have gagged. I would have just run away. But I can't do that when I'm tracking these loonies, these professional losers. There was another one down here. And the rule for gagging for me is just, I always sort of say, if I'm 5 bets behind and the next bet needs to be in 4 figures, so it's 1,000 or more, then I'm out. I'm gone. And if you look here, I mean, ultimately, I would have hit this this whole set of wins down here, but I can't do that when I'm tracking John or anybody else when I'm doing this number. So all I can say to you is, for goodness sake, don't bet like John Sirasani. Don't believe him when he says he's the world's greatest. I don't know whether he actually believes that, or whether he thinks that somehow it makes him more appealing to the audience out there. I mean, I can't think he's so dumb that he actually believes it. I mean, he played with Don Johnson at one point, for goodness sake, at Circa, a session sometime last year. And Don Johnson is the guy from Texas, not the actor, but the guy from Texas who kicked the crap out of Borgata in New Jersey for about 15 million. But he didn't do it with card counting, because they would have shut him down very quickly if they thought he was counting cards. But he did it because they gave him a rebate on his losses, which is about the dumbest thing I've ever heard of a casino doing. I mean, it's just so weird. But anyway, that's that's all beside the point. He knows. I'm sure he must know that he's not the best ever. He just has this mad idea that by claiming to be the best in the world, he makes himself more impressive. And I think what he does is exactly the opposite. But he's entitled to lose his money if he wants to. He's entitled to be as aggressive at the table as he wants to be, as long as the casinos will put up with it. He really lost his shit at the end of this session, which was embarrassing. But not embarrassing for him, apparently. He seemed to think that was just fine. The 3 girls who were his window dressing throughout this session looked somewhat kind of unhappy about his sudden attack on a guy who we thought, or I thought, was a friend of his. But anyway, he went nuts. And he does this thing where he bangs the table, and he does the sort of thing that I've seen people do so many times over the years. He doesn't overturn tables, and he doesn't attack dealers, at least as far as I know, but banging the table and getting up and walking off and perhaps going round the corner and banging his head against the wall. I don't know, that kind of stuff. It demonstrates that he, in his heart, recognizes the sheer idiocy of random betting, because he gets angry with himself, and he also gets angry with God. Poor old God can look after himself, I'm sure, but it's just interesting to watch this guy, because he drives me nuts, because he talks much more than he plays. But I've had people say the same thing to me, so I better stay out of that particular discussion. But there you have it. Anyway, he really fucked up this time, big time. And once again, I just want to draw your attention to this and to this. And you've got to be able to see the similarity between those two things. And this is the cost of betting the way that he did. I mean, this guy would even begin to suggest that he knows anything about money management is just too silly, because money management is what this looks like. It looks like this is what I'm trying to say. And it certainly doesn't look like this. So there you have it. Next time, folks.